There came a point when I was 17 where my 59-year-old father needed me to help him find work. I'd been hired to paint a room in a warehouse on Chicago's north side, and I was to be alone all day in the windowless space with a transistor radio and a gallon can of white paint. I propped open the door to the outside, but remained wary since it faced a glass-bejeweled alleyway. I liked painting houses and rooms, just as I liked mowing lawns and shoveling walks in my neighborhood. For these tasks, I drew straight lines in grass, on walls, along sidewalks, until I'd transformed the surface. I knew where to begin and when I'd reached an endpoint. The warehouse was owned by a friend's father who manufactured restaurant equipment. The same man hired me every summer to paint the outside of his house, which remained so white and clean year to year that during my work, whenever I stopped for a break, I had trouble finding where I'd left off. Sometimes I had to wait for sunlight to show me where to resume. The warehouse task was different. As I rolled on paint, the space brightened with each application. I, too, as a mist of white, speckled my arms and hair. I heard the crunch of glass from the alleyway, and in walked my father, dressed in suit and tie, his attire as a wholesale liquor salesman. Work days for him consisted of driving to bars, hotels, nightclubs, restaurants, bowling alleys throughout Chicago to see clients who ordered their liquor through him. But he'd lost that job, and my mother, though gaining a new love, a woman for whom he'd soon leave my mother. The woman worked at my father's company, and through a misguided scheme, she'd assigned my father an inordinate number of sales commissions. They were both fired. "How did you find me?" I asked my father. "I was meeting with your boss," he said, "seeing if there might be something here for me. I sold booze to restaurants. I can certainly sell pizza trays." But he said he didn't have anything for me. I was too young to know the significance of my father's plight, a man then my age now, jobless, on the cusp of a new life with a different woman. He was leaving, too, a spacious home in a leafy North Shore suburb for a ground-floor apartment in Chicago in its last Italian neighborhood. My father was an affectionate man, forced to shake my hand that day, given my paint-spattered overalls. "Maybe on the drive back with him you could ask again if he might have something for me," my father said. A month later, my father and mother drove me to Ann Arbor, where I was entering college. My father had yet to find work, but even for the 250-mile drive, he was dressed up. When we arrived at my dorm, my father got out of the Chrysler, hugged me, and wept. He got back in behind the wheel, its spokes targeting his chest. My mother got out of the passenger side, hugged and kissed me, and wept, she framed by the windshield. They were saying goodbye to me and to their marriage. For that next afternoon, my mother called to say my father had moved out. He was old-fashioned that way, waiting for the last of the children to leave home before he did. He found work as some kind of messenger, delivering tickets. Many years later, after he'd moved to Florida with his woman and I was in New York working as a magazine editor, I mailed him weekly shipments of review books I'd been sent by publishers. He sold them to a local bookstore and kept the money, making friends with the owner. As his woman friend told me, "You've given your father something to do, a new friend, place to go, and a job."